Yo, what it do, y'all? It's your boy No Name. Let's get right into it. So, been thinking again. You see the bonnet, you know what time it is. We've been thinking again. Just chilling, hanging out with the boys. Got sent another Reddit post that made me do some thinking about a topic that, I think about all the time. It's the driving force of what I do in PoE. And I just hadn't, talked about it on the channel yet. So here we are. Finally time to talk about it. And so this post just really shows the duality of being a PoE player, right? The idea that it's so easy to either think that diversity right now in the game is fantastic or horrific. And I don't think either side of those claims are ridiculous, right? It's all a matter of context. What are you perceiving things through, right? The talk today, we're going to talk a little bit about perception of imbalance and like how that's affecting us as players, how we see the state of diversity in the game. And then I'm going to posit my main statement, which I will leave it here and we're going to hit it later after I talk about the perception piece, which is Path of Exile is too large of a game for anyone to claim full knowledge. That's the topic statement. We're going to come back to that. But before we even get around to all that, just a heads up, if you like what I do here, you like this type of video, like the video, lets me know to do more, right? And if you want to see more of what I do in general, subscribing to the channel. That's how you find out what I'm posting, right? Now, continuing. So, perception of the game is where we're going to start from. Before we get to that statement that I dropped there, that statement's loaded. I know it is. But we got to talk about how we perceive the game first in order to understand why that statement even existed in the first place, right? Remember, I said that Path of Exile is too large of a game for anyone to have a full-size picture of. How do I get there? We have to talk about perception. Think about how hard it is to actually experience things in Path of Exile. And I'm not saying like hard as in like, oh, the game is just so difficult. No. I just mean, think about the time investment needed for each of the different skills and archetypes and ascendancies and content, right? Like the literal just different types of content you can be doing. It is so much. The game is massive. Unbelievably so, right? That's what a decade worth of work gets you. An incredible game with well over 200, I think even over 300 active skill gems that are actually capable of doing damage, and 19 ascendancies. Who knows how many unique items? I didn't even look for the number. I just thought it's way too many, right? We're talking about a game that's absolutely massive, and like expecting any one person to know what's going on is ridiculous. So instead, what we do is we rely on collective experience. We perceive the game through a combination of the things that we have done and found to feel good and bad versus what other people have done and found to be good or bad. It's a lot like real life. There are too many experiences in real life to have experienced all of them. And therefore we rely very heavily on what other people say. It's why people say like, oh yeah, you should check out this restaurant. I went there. It was fantastic. You are more likely now to set foot in that establishment. And the same reason if somebody says, don't drive that car, because I was in the car testing it, it felt a little wobbly or whatever. You now are less likely to test drive that car. You might not even want to think about that car. You might even get weary about somebody picking you up in that car if you were to like get an Uber, right? And so this same concept plays here. It takes a lot of effort to have experienced a ton of the game. And the game is ever changing. It's a live service game. It changes every league. Sometimes entire shakeups happen to archetypes between the time that you played and now. So how can you ever really maintain good knowledge on these things? And the reality is, unfortunately, we can't. So hopefully you go, well, this person over here experiences these things, and I experience these things, and my friends experience these things, and this YouTuber was talking a lot about these other things. And when you combine all that together, you start to get a picture of the game through some lens, right? It's still not the full lens, but it's some lens slightly broader than what you could put together individually. And so what happens is we are looking at a lens of comfort. And it's comfortable because we haven't had very many of our pillars dragged out from underneath us. It's not like we woke up and DD just got like hammered into the ground, you know? Like even poison seismic, that took many nerfs to finally be pulled from out beneath us, right? Like it takes a lot of time nowadays for builds to be taken from underneath us to the point where it's like, well, I like comfy league starts. I like being able to get into the flow. I like being able to get my currency rolling quickly. Why wouldn't I just play the thing that I know already worked with a slight nerf that's not going to affect it enough at all, right? And I want you to keep that thought in mind for a second. Slight nerf that's not going to really affect it. I want you to keep that thought in mind because it's going to come back up later. So you stay in comfort because things aren't getting buffed to those ridiculous degrees unless you look like Archmage this league, right? The buffs to Archmage were just so massive that that people had to try it out. Or, you know, we had like the nerf to Penance that happened in this league that looked large enough to scare people off the skill. Newsflash, Penance Man is still really strong, by the way. But it looked scary enough to make you go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't play Penance Man Anticipation again this league, right? So that's one of the types of lenses, right? Then when you add in, now we've been doing most of the same type of farming in the game for quite some time. And, you know, when we talk about our ability to perceive through YouTube, Twitch, PoE Ninja, and other sources of aggregated information, a lot of the information we're going to get pertains to high investment mapping strategies. Always has, always will. And so a lot of the information that we're able to find readily talks a lot more under that scope, right? It's why if you're tired of bow metas, get over it. If you're ever hoping that your classical melee was going to be high meta for like softcore trade farming, I hate to break it to you, but it never will be because it's just not simply fast enough to compete in a currency per hour world, right? And that's just a part of like one of the lenses you could be looking at. You know, you could be looking at the T17 lens, which right now everyone's clinging on to the first 2 or 3 things they found that really work for cranking it out because it's hard to come up with ideas. And so it's safer to just play the idea that works. One of the like 3 ideas that really work out there, right? Even if there's tons of other things that do it just fine, these ideas, I can find like tons of examples of people doing it. And so the end game right now stratifies towards 1 or 2 solid ideas because it's too expensive for most people to experiment with. And the early game has no real shakeups because honestly, GGG just refuses to like make the early game experience more enjoyable, quite frankly. And so we've just had no real shakeups there, even with the racers like actively trying to shake things up. And it leads me all the way back to this driving statement. We can't have a full picture ever as individuals. And even as a community, I don't think we have a full picture because I've spent forever being told that the ideas that I cook up look a little sus and a little questionable. Not all of them, right? Like some of them, like the ones you've seen on my channel, they come out fine. But, you know, for every cook that makes it here, who knows how many cooks get stuck in POB after the fact, right? And when showing it to my friends, they always go, I don't know, man. Looks a little questionable. Why are you looking at that skill, man? Why are you looking at that ascendancy, man? And it's because like, fuck it, I'm bored. I want to look at something. And it tends to work is the other thing. Like, you know, we have the ability to do the numbers to know if it will work or not. And that's just been the tale of my experimentation. It dates back years, right? You would think my friends would stop doubting me after years of doing this, and yet they still do it anyways. And it's good. The doubt keeps me in place and lets me continue to work on my craft and just continues to push me to do it better and better every time. Shout out to my homies for that one, for real. And now here's the thing. You're like, well, that's mighty anecdotal. Like, what am I supposed to just take you at face value? No, don't take me at face value for a second. Let's talk things you can see. So if you go to PoE Ninja right now, like you're looking at a diversity on PoE Ninja that's better than we've ever had historically. At least in my time playing. In my time playing since 3.6, I have never seen diversity this good on PoE Ninja. Ever. And now PoE Ninja is not the best representation of the game, because even if I use latest snapshot or week 1 snapshot or SSF softcore week 1 snapshot, SSF hardcore day 4 snapshot, whatever, I'm still getting only particular lenses of the game to look at. But just generally speaking, the fact that there's not even like very many skills in double digits on any given snapshot is impressive. Because it usually does look a lot worse than this. And sometimes it gets even more extreme, right? Usually you get like a 2 to 3 skill split of like 30% or more. And instead we're at everything chilling at 7 and less. That's awesome. That's what we want to see. That means that the game is truly getting the diversity that it needed, and that, YouTube and content creation in general just kind of favors showing us what's popular. Right now it's popular to farm, T17s with barrels. Later, it might be popular to farm Sanctum, so you're going to see a ton of Hexblast mines show up again or something, right? Like, who knows? But there's so much going on out there. And to really drive this point further home, because I remember I said, not only can I show it to you in numbers, but think about some of the builds that we've seen in the past couple of years, right? I've got older examples and newer examples. Fire Trap Elementalist, as for example. That build popped off in Expedition League after Fire Trap received an absurd buff in the wake of a bunch of support gem nerfs. A lot of the game got brought down in power. Fire Trap got brought up in power. Elementalist was recently reworked to be insane in 3.13. Therefore, go nuts. Fire Trap Elementalist, baby, it's the new build. Or is it? Because I was sent Fire Trap Chieftain in Heist League. Before Elementalist was even reworked, a friend of a friend dropped Fire Trap Chieftain on me. And it was a nuts character. Like, it was a really good character. 3 leagues before pieces that would, like, I think the end state of Fire Trap at that point, if I were to put his gear on it, would have well overcapped his damage. Even with all the defenses he had on that character. And that's just a statement on, there are creators out there, like not like creators in terms of content creators, but like creators in terms of build creators, people who don't make videos and forum posts and whatnot. They just cook and have fun, that are doing special things with the game, or, going a little bit further, right? Look at these Transfigured Gems that we've got going on right now, and notice how many haven't really been touched, at least in the light of YouTube and in the light of Twitch. But if you start to like dig around, you're going to find a lot of things, potentially even before your favorite content creator talked about it. A really good example of this is Soul Run of the Spiral. I hate to break it to you, but neither Jungrun nor Subtractum was the one who researched those builds, at least not initially, right? They played it, they've done great work with it, but it was researched ahead of time. 323 people were playing Soul Run of the Spiral to figure it out. Dual Strike of Dexterity. Alkaiser was not the first person to play Dual Strike of Dexterity. People were playing it last league when they realized that that's a pretty cool idea for a gem. There's a ton of gems in the game right now that fit the description of things people are experimenting with, but it's not popular. And so it brings me again all the way back to the core thought. Can we really have a full picture of the game's viability? No. Because even if we were to look specifically within the niche that we want it for, I'd ask you the question, have you experimented with enough things? Right? Has enough been experimented with for you to actually claim that statement? Oh, there's just nothing, or there's so few things that can even do this. Like, have you actually tried enough things? Or is your niche just that specific that there are like 2 things that fit it total, period, right? That's the core of my thoughts, right? We are in a state of the game where there's so much to experiment with, and I have my long ass list of things to experiment around with in terms of things that I want to do. And it's going to take a while to do it all, because like I said earlier, it just takes so much time. But ultimately, I want to talk about this just because I think we, at some point should start to fight against the idea that the game doesn't have build diversity. And not in the sense that it's like, oh, we should just be content with what we have. No. It's just to point out what, like, we do have a lot now. Is there a want to perceive it better? Yeah, of course. Like, I would love to not look at Glad and Raider and Assassin and like Grimace because of the current state of those ascendancies after their over nerfings from being so popular. And this is unpopular because they're still like completely functional ascendancies, and I totally could do something with them still. But just, now there's just options that are better right around the corner for most purposes. And so, like, that feels bad, but it doesn't mean it's unviable. And this brings me all the way back to my last point. Remember when I said, remember that 10-15% piece there? That's what I'm talking about. Viability is not about being number one. Viability is about the direct capability to complete the content. Is it going to do it under the circumstances that you want? Yes or no? And we will never have a full picture of everyone's scopes for that because we're all different in what we want and how we want to go about getting it, right? And that's kind of all I got to say there. Like, I think we should just explore more, have more fun with builds, and see where it takes us. Anyways, this has been a lot of thoughts. I wanted to make this shorter. I tried many times to make this one shorter when I've done this take, like, I don't know how many times. And it's just such a passion topic. And more importantly, I think it's just a large topic to talk about. Maybe could have broken it down. Who knows? Either way, thank you for watching. If again, like the video, if you like this type of video, if you want more of these long form thoughts, especially as it pertains to builds, really let me know, especially in the comments, or even better in the comments, actually give me build ideas. I'm just always like collecting more and more ideas to add to my sheet. Who knows when I'm going to get to play all of them, but just like the more ideas, the better, quite frankly. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of what I'm doing here. If you want to see me outside of this platform, I do have a Twitch that I do stream on occasionally. That link is in the description. Much easier to reach me if you check out the Discord in the description though. And that's it from me, y'all. I've got to get back to cooking because, like I said, I'm working on something related to this project. And, well, it is about that time to get to work. Have a great day, y'all. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.